Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our webinar series. I'm Jen Walinga, a professor in the School of Communication and Culture at Royal Roads University, and welcome to episode 15, part 2. Really, these are bonus reels with some fabulous leaders in sport within our Canadian Football League. And we'll be talking to Ali Mourtada today. Looking forward to that, and I'll introduce him in a moment, but I'll just give you a little background first on the series. We first always acknowledge the lands that we're speaking from, learning on, teaching, living, working, and playing. We're very fortunate to be on the lands of the Lekwungen and Kusepsan people. It's their unceded territories, and it's, of course, incredibly important to acknowledge our history and the gaps in our history and acknowledging who was here in Canada first. And, of course, also taking responsibility for acknowledging the truths of the harms imposed upon the people, our First Nations in Canada over the years as a step toward restoration, reparation, and finally reconciliation. And I spent a lot of time also on the Wasanich territories, going backwards in my little boat on Elk Lake. And of course, love sport, devoted my, I would say it's life's work, really. This webinar series is about the power of sport and the power of sport to change the world and illustrate a path forward that's positive, humanistic, and sustainable. So many athletes are taking the stage here, using their platform for speaking out about human rights and freedoms. And lots of organizations, of course, emerging from sport as well. So we thought it would be important here at Royal Roads to partner with this endeavor and discuss sport and the power of sport, because it aligns with a lot of the principles that guide our learning, teaching, research model. We have schools and programs that all are focused on in an interdisciplinary way: development, diversity, education, environment, equity, human rights, health, communication, peace. And we see these mirrored in all sorts of initiatives across the sport landscape as well. We also, of course, at Royal Roads have a flexible admission policy. And what this means is we acknowledge learning in all its forms. We mostly work with working professionals. So it's important to acknowledge that learning happens in a professional context, and that includes sport. So I work with, as a liaison, athletes from all realms of sport, really, professional, amateur, provincial, and welcome them into our programs, acknowledging that the learning they have gained through their sport experience and often international experience can be counted as credit into and laddered into our programs. We're working on different programs in sport leadership right now, a graduate certificate and some coursework. And we also partner, of course, with Game Plan, which is a transition organization for national team athletes. And lately, we've also partnered with the CFL, which has just been a real treat. We kicked off a 1-month course just to have an intro and to invite the guys in to learn about sport leadership and contribute, of course, because they're part of that learning. So we partnered with the Players Association. And of course, this season is kicking off shortly. And I welcome today Ali Mourtada, who is with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and their kicker, of course. He's also a personal trainer and has a master's in rehab counseling. And the reason I highlight these things is because it illustrates, of course, how well-rounded athletes really are and how they play roles in so many realms of society. And I'd always start by asking my guests to introduce themselves a little more fully in the context of sport. So I'll ask Ali to share a little bit more about his background and how these things intersect, and how he's found his way down these pathways. Let's get started. So I'll just welcome Ali here now, and looking so forward to having a conversation. Thanks so much, Ali, for joining me.
Of course.
And I know you've just arrived in Winnipeg.
I did. Got in last night. What's that? Sorry.
It's all good.
Say that again. I'm gonna lift after this, and then yeah. So I'll be here. Okay, sounds good. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, thank you. Teammates looking out, seeing if I need a ride. So
I love that, right? It totally.
So I'm kind of in the locker room in the lounge area, so I'm guessing there might be guys coming in and out here. But
great.
But yeah, got into Winnipeg last night. Got a good solid day on the field today, and I'll be getting my lift in a little bit later. So just kind of getting into routine once arriving. So kind of hit the ground running.
It's so cool. And it's really great to have a window into your world, right? And to feel, yeah, the teammates are around and everybody's getting connected up again. You
Yeah.
guys are reigning champs. Let's start with that. Maybe talk to us a little bit about your experience with Blue Bombers so far and what it's been like. What do you notice?
Well, things that, the culture here is incredible, right? So you got a lot of guys that, I mean, it's cliche, right? Putting the team first, but like you have your work to do and you just focus on your job, right? You're not really trying to tell other guys what to do. You kind of lead by putting your work in, right? From the coaching staff to the GMs, just everybody around here, training staff, everybody does their job really well. So you kind of put it on yourself to do your job really well. So I got in here last year in, when was it? Maybe October, I think. And so I signed here and then had to go through kind of the protocols of getting tested for COVID and then coming here. So the morning I got the call to come out here, during that time I was playing in the indoor football league. Got the call to come out here. So went and got vaccinated, got tested, ended up testing positive for COVID. So that put a little delay in my coming out here. So then about 2 weeks later, finally got a negative test. Came out here, kind of hit the ground running first week of practice. Went real well. And I'm sure we'll get into this with, with the games and how kind of things transpired, but just finding that things are done here a certain way and I fit into that way really well. So how I like things to be done, where things are very organized, very routine oriented. The team seemed to kind of carry those same values, so it was kind of seamless coming in at that point. The biggest thing I think for me coming in initially was, okay, how does my routine fit in? When do I kick? When do I lift? So that took some time to figure that out. But now coming here for year 2, everything I've kind of figured that out now, right? So I know exactly how my routine is going to be, and I'm very routine oriented. I like to know when I'm doing things and how much of it I'm doing, and then, kind of go from there. So that's been a big difference coming in this year, is kind of, I already have that routine set. I don't have to figure that out really.
And it's so crucial. And it sounds like the culture with the Blue Bombers is like that. It hinges on clarity of responsibilities, clarity of roles. People can just do the work. And we talked a bit about this in our course, the idea of allowing people to then focus. So you come in, a little bit of figuring out, but once you've got it, it's routine. Not a lot of decisions need to be made then, do they, right? You can just focus on performing. Cool. And what are you looking forward to doing this year? What are your goals for your role within the team and for the team itself?
So I have specific goals myself. But when it comes to the overall part of the team, it's leading by example and having a positive, not only a positive impact on my teammates, but really playing my role really well as the kicker on the team, right? So when I'm asked to go out and execute, I do that, right? So giving a sense of confidence to the rest of my teammates that, hey, I'm going to go out, I'm going to do my job. So just as I believe in them, I believe it's going to be reciprocated coming my way as well. So, it's going to be an exciting season. I was really looking forward to coming out here. There's a different feeling when you get into camp and things get close. There's a kind of this just joy that you don't really, at least for me personally, I don't really get anywhere else. So having that excitement to come out is something that I hope everyone, whatever they do in life, that they have that excitement when they pursue whatever they're looking to do.
Yeah, and feeling like you're coming home in some ways. Hey, love it. And I love the fact that you're also reigning Grey Cup champions. And so what does that say, right, about performance and success and the importance of culture and the human connections and relationships? I mean, I think sometimes people think it has to be this grindstone and you're just, hammering all the time and there's no room for emotion, but you're actually talking about a very connected and clear and responsible kind of setting. Yeah.
Yeah, and it starts from the top, I think, and you know, the relationships that the the team has with the coaching staff and everybody that's a part of this team, everybody in the building kind of has one thing in mind, and I guess becoming Grey Cup champions is a byproduct of the process and the preparation.
Yeah.
Each week you focus on what you can control and your individual preparation. And there's a saying that I like, that you're entitled to the process, you're not entitled to the results. So I think everybody on this team kind of has that in mind, is that's the ultimate goal. But how, when you reverse engineer, it's making sure you get your recovery in, your nutrition, your hydration, like all these little things that need to be executed by each individual to make sure that they're at their best. And if each individual is at their best, then the team will have their success. So, the coaches and the training staff, everyone trusts the players to do those things, right? No one's coming around, babysitting you on what to do. It's on you individually to make sure that you're at your best. So.
And it sounds like the process has been well designed. It's informed, and so there's a lot of trust in. You talk about there's clarity about what I need to do, but also a real trust in the value of doing those things. It's a strat plan really that's laid out for you, that's really solid, and people believe in it.
Yeah, for sure. And everyone's doing it, right? So it's like, if you're coming in here and you're not fitting in with the work ethic, you probably won't be here too long, right? It's real simple. Come in, head down, focus on the work, focus on the process. You do that, everything will kind of take care of itself from there. So
exciting. And I was reading about you and your story coming in, I think September, October, and you're kicking, and your coach was so supportive of you because you had kind of not the greatest results according to your standards. I'm sure other people would be quite thrilled with them, but he just pointed out that, but Ali kicks perfectly straight every single time. He's a little bit off, but that's probably because he's coming from American wheel, or the field's a little bit wider, really this real insight, and not just taking the result as the outcome or the measure, but understanding the kind of nuance that kicks the same place every single time. So his Ali's consistency is there, his precision is there. We just need to make a little adjustment. And can you talk to me a bit about some of the work that you've been doing on the off season, and how you're feeling coming in?
So what's really interesting. Well, first off, let me address O'Shea's. Definitely that's huge, because I go out on the field and I wouldn't have changed how I hit those balls at all. I hit them exactly how I wanted to hit them. They went basically exactly where I aimed them to go, but it's just a little shift that can go a long way. And I needed those reps, right? So kind of being forged in the fires, I had to go through that and miss kicks in games, and ultimately be on the practice squad by the end of the year. But I used that as an opportunity to learn. Something I discussed with coach at the end of the year is, how, other than not playing at the end of the year, what would you change? And I said, I wouldn't change a thing, because that's my story. That's my process. That's going to help me grow. Because, hey, would I've loved to go perfect and the guy also, yeah, 100%, but that's not what it is. I wouldn't change what happened, So it was nice to have somebody there that understood the nuance, like you mentioned, of the kicking game. So I had a clear goal this offseason, was to develop being wider out. And I got real comfortable doing that. Took, probably 1,500 repetitions this offseason on those hashes, just constantly doing it. And then 3 days ago, they changed the rules and they moved the hashes in from 17 yards to 9 yards.
Thinking about you, I heard that and I thought, oh, Jesus.
Yeah, but it was like, okay, that was great. I love it. But what helped me is being a lot more intentional. Like this off season was really, hey, I have the swing, I have the kick, I have the power. It's what's my alignment? What's my intention on the alignment, and getting in that spot. Uh, and once I'm there, then I can kind of let it rip. And it's been a good off season of learning that. Now I just, it's a little bit more in my wheelhouse, but either way, I was looking forward to being wide or out, being close. It didn't really matter. I think I did the work this off season to be prepared for whatever came my way. But
And I love what you say about your journey and, you know, going through it the way you went through things. If you'd hit it perfectly every single time, O'Shea would never have had that opportunity to demonstrate such beautiful coaching either, and that went public because of course you guys always are in the media. But I think, wow, think of the inspiration he then had on all of your teammates, all the other teams in the CFL, and I'm sure beyond, because what he did there and how he communicated his support for you and his insight into what he was supporting. Huge, beautiful, really captured the principles of sport, I think. So, I appreciate that you appreciate that. And I think it can even go beyond, your own learning. It probably had a huge impact for so many people across sport, not just football, really beautiful story. So tell me about sport for you. Why sport? How did you find yourself in sport? Was it always football? Why do you because now you've chosen your career is that direction as well of personal
Right.
training and
So I was born in Sierra Leone, Africa. So at 4 years old, my family moved to Massachusetts, and soccer was kind of always in my family, right? My dad played soccer, my uncles played soccer, like that was just what everyone did. So for me, especially coming into a new country, that was my way of kind of making friends, a little bit quicker, right? Is my English wasn't the best at that point, but I could play soccer pretty good. So, there was always a joy that I found in sport, but also I realized the joy that I had in sport brought joy to my family, my mom, my dad, and that was something that over the years that I guess I didn't really realize until later on, where we lived in a small town. So being successful on the football field on a Friday night, my parents had a gas station in town, and people from the town would come in and they'd talk to my parents about how well I played, and I didn't think of it at the time, but I'm sure that was, no matter what was going on in their lives, whatever struggles they were going through, that's a nice thing to have, where you get to talk about your son and some of the successes that he's had. And that's something that took a while for me to conceptualize that, but it really is I love doing it, but I also love doing it because it brings joy to the people around me, even though last year it brought a lot of stress to the people around me. So my mom wasn't, she would have trouble watching the game and everything. So, but I told her, I'm like, hey, it is what it is. Just stay out of the media, just watch the games, enjoy it. So I'm looking forward to this year. We'll see if she tunes in. I think she will, though. But yeah, not only about myself, but definitely the people around me too. I think it's really special.
Oh, I just love that so much. And you're making me realize that I always think sport is so powerful in the world, but you're helping me see that when you talked about in the community, you think of your community and how no matter, like you said, what's going on in their lives, they had this game and these guys, these kids that they could sort of get excited about and celebrate joy and their success or their performances or, cool plays that happen within the game. It's this beautiful microcosm that can represent the best of human beings, no matter what's going on in the world. So it's so important, isn't it, sport? And why, and then you went back to school and you've ended up tell us a little bit about rehab counseling. What's that?
So rehab counseling, it is, so those with disabilities, right? Making sure that they have, the right tools around them, and it's interesting. So like people know whether it's women's rights, rights of African Americans in this country or in the United States, but what's overlooked sometimes are those with disabilities, right? So those things needed to be brought up to the US government where ramps were not always available to people, right? And, it's these little things that every individual has some sort of obstacle that they're going through, something that they're fighting for. And that's kind of what drew me to rehab counseling. Because I got my bachelor's in psychology. So it's always understanding a little bit of what other people are going through and maybe the steps that we can take in order to help them, right? So after rehab counseling, though, I didn't pursue it so much as a profession after school. Because football was my focus, I kind of dove into a little bit more personal training, and that was parallel to what I was trying to do, right? So as I was trying to go pro, the training was really right alongside there. So just the knowledge, the application of that stuff. So definitely, I wouldn't say I'm an expert here at rehab counseling, right? There are people that are out there actually doing the work. It was really an area of interest for me while I was finishing up my football career. And then I really shifted all my energy to, the personal training side of everything. But, it's those little things that we don't realize that we kind of take for granted. And just the more knowledge we have, the more understanding we have, I think will benefit us in the end. So.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it informs everything you do as a player, as a trainer, as a person, human being. It's beautiful. And I'm sure you will bring that knowledge in different ways to the world. And what do you think? What do you think about, the role of football? What role has it played in the world, do you think? What kind of does it demonstrate? What are the principles that it possesses that, teach people who are watching or playing, or what are some of the things that it has to offer?
I mean, I can speak for myself, right? But I'm sure a lot of guys realize this, but there's such a roller coaster of emotions in game. Yes, there's roller coasters of emotions, and it's how can you maintain a level head and focus on the task at hand. That in itself, I think is priceless just for life. You realize like, okay, well, I can't control that. It's this play. You might be down 10, 15, 20 points, but this play, and everybody has to do their part in order for the team to succeed. And, kicking, it's kind of a game within a game. You're basically a golfer on the field with a bunch of superior athletes, right? So I think for a kicker, you're learning the game more through, because there isn't much of a flow where when you're playing football, when you're playing basketball, the game flows and you can kind of find your rhythm. Whereas kicking, it's you have to find your flow pretty instantly, right? And it's pre-kick routine, post-kick routine, doing whatever you can to kind of get you in that place. Because when you're in game after, whatever nerves somebody might have after the first play, now you're just playing the game, right? Whereas kicking, you're kind of just alone. And then when you're called upon, you come up and perform. But that's where the training comes in, just the repetitions, no matter what's happening around you, you've repped it so many times that you get your body in the right place, then you can breathe and just kind of let it happen. But, when it comes to the game of football, there really is this belief that you have to have in everybody around you. I remember watching football. I grew up in Foxborough, Massachusetts, so I'm a big Patriots fan. And even though we were down at times, I literally believed, I'm like, we're going to win this game, right? So, and that's as a fan, so that's what's really important, I think, as a team, is if at any point you don't have that sort of thought, right? If you have a thought like, okay, we're going to lose this game, that you have to understand when you were thinking that, why you were thinking that, and then how you can make sure that you keep your mind in the right place during that whole time. So, but yeah, I know for me, it brings out a lot of really, it makes you face yourself, right? As a kicker, you're going to go through ups and downs, and you're going to learn a lot about yourself throughout the whole thing. I look at it as like golf and martial arts, honestly. It's a constant peeling of the onion, uncovering of yourself until finally you understand the core of who you are. And once you do that, then the art can kind of just take care of itself. But until you get to that point, it's that's me. I look at kicking in a very philosophical kind of way. Some guys just go out there and kick. I like to view it as a way to understand self. So it's been very useful for me as a person, as a son, as a fiance. I think it's makes you understand who you are.
Right. Beautiful. Which is good for the world. The more self-aware you are, the better you are for everyone else. Love that connection. You're going to be the kicker and the punter, or is it very specialized?
So as an American, you're only allowed a certain amount of Americans per team, a certain amount of Americans on the field per play. So it's beneficial for the team to have one guy that, if you're an American, that does all three: kicks, punts, and kicks off. So last year I did field goals and kicked off, but this off season I got my reps in punting, and I improved there. So that's something we kind of wait and see in camp, and how I kick in camp in the preseason games and how I punt. So that is a goal of mine. But again, that will take care of itself if I keep doing what it is I'm doing to prepare. So, but it's good to improve. Like this off season, there were specific goals, right? It was improve on the hashes and improve on punting. And I think I came in accomplishing those goals, but that doesn't mean that's the end, right? Keep improving throughout the rest of the year.
Yeah, it's always room. And I want to ask you to tell us more about kicking, but before that, I want to go back to that belief, the word belief, because it is such a beautiful, like lots of games are like that, where someone else has the ball, and I have to just trust they're going to do their job, and then I play my role when I need to play my role. And football definitely, right, is like that. And what do you think that belief, like even when you're down, but you still have this crazy belief, can you describe what that's based on, or stories that you have of where you've experienced that either as a fan or a player, where you just knew no matter what, we're going to make this happen? Tell us more about that.
Well, even last year in the Western Finals,
yeah,
right? We were we were down, we were turning the ball over, but I don't think anyone on the team lost belief that something was going to go our way, right? And for some reason, when the whole team's believing that tends to be the case. Somebody makes a play, and really could be anybody. Yeah, it could be anybody on the team that makes that play, and you have to have that. Like it's hard to explain, because I don't know. I guess for the rest of the world, I'm not sure where that can apply so quickly. It might have to be more, you really believe something and then you keep believing, and then over time, whether it's business, relationships, whatever, over time it really kind of develops. Whereas in a game, it's basically like an hour, right? Obviously the game's longer, but the amount of time that you're playing is basically an hour, and so much has to manifest in that time. But keeping that core belief that somebody's going to make a play, whether it's me, whether it's a DB, the quarterback, someone's going to come up with something that's really going to spark some momentum for us. And so I think football, it kind of takes all of life and condenses it into an hour of play every Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. You kind of get that experience.
Yeah, and it's for everyone, isn't it? Everyone watching and participating and in whatever role. I love how you reference the building. It's a lot of different people are playing a role here. The belief, and what do you think? The turnovers or the fumbles or things that go wrong. What does a truly great team do in response to those setbacks? What would you say?
Short-term memory, accountability. Accountability. There's no blaming, there's no finger pointing. It's all right, that's what happened. Now it's our job to try to shift that momentum back towards us, right? Whether on the defensive end, they get a stop, and then the offense, hey, the offense made a mistake, defense gets stopped. Now the offense, all right, it's on us. We got to do what we came here to do. So I think that's the biggest thing is self accountability and no blame, right? No pointing fingers, but taking care of your job and, you know, uplifting people with your voice, right? Rather than tearing somebody down, it's building them up and letting them know like, hey, we have your back no matter what's happening. We have your back. Just go out and keep doing what you're meant to do. So, and again, that comes back to culture, right? That's a big culture thing there.
Yeah, because we've all been there. And a quick, an adaptation, adjustment, understanding how the mistakes happen, but being able to quickly pick yourself up and make the change, right? So love it. And maybe can you talk a bit more about kicking? Not many people have an insight, I don't think, into the the sort of dynamic of that kicking team. I was just thrilled learning about that when we had a little chat about it, but maybe you can end on it.
Yeah, so that's really kicking without trust. It's almost impossible, right? So in order to be successful as a kicker, you need to have a great long snapper, a great holder, and a great line, right? So if you're worried about other people, if you're worried about other people not executing their job, you can't focus on your job. So you have to go out and literally trust. And that's where that preparation comes in. If the guys are doing what they need to do, right, then getting their reps in, you can just focus on what you need to do. Because a kicking, I heard the saying, it was like, it's 99% mental and the other 1% is mental. So I thought that was that was a pretty interesting take on it. But yeah, it is this kind of circle of trust where once you take your steps, once you go back, you have your target pointed out, you trust that everything is just going to be on point. I mean, because you got 1.35 seconds of this, and everything just needs to be locked in. And let's say if the snap is slightly off, then the holder can correct it, right? Or if something's off on the hold, then I can correct that by still making the kick, right? So no matter what happens, the snapper is going to take accountability for his job. The holder is going to take accountability for his job. I'm going to take accountability for my job. So no matter where the ball is, my job is to put it in, right? So whatever adjustment I have to make mid-kick to make the kick has to be made, and then later, right, when you're watching film, okay, hey, this is kind of what happened here, but in the moment, it's, hey, that one's on me. And that's kind of how everybody, looks at their game, is 100% accountability on themselves. So
love it. And accepting, I love that you talk a lot about the things we can't control, the tolerance for ambiguity, right? It's so crucial. And we've done a lot of research on that to show that, experienced athletes in particular have learned that and embedded it. I need to just accept what I can't control and focus on what I can. And it ends up helping them perform like crazy. Love this, the trio of the guys. And it must be, you probably get kind of used to it, but as someone that's getting this, insight into your world, it's so beautiful, so marvelous and gestalt-like and synergistic. And I would think every once in a while it must hit you just how perfectly beautiful that is, that this trio of actions.
It's incredible. Like literally I personally cannot do my job without these guys.
Right.
Like at all. Right. So just to have human beings on this planet that can throw snaps like darts, and be perfect, and have holders that have, the hands and the finesse to get it down. And really the snapper, right? If the snapper does his job, he's the vital part of everything, and he's overlooked a lot, right? So snapper that we have here, Mike Benson, he's a vet, and he's just on point, and so, but that's the thing, you build that relationship with guys on the field, off the field, and you have fun doing it. So, but yeah, it's really incredible that without him, really there's nothing I can do, right? So he's been great.
Right on. And for those who, I've got a lot of people in my family who play rugby, and the concept of the ball not being there as you approach it, right, is really
Yeah.
cool as well, right? It's just not even
Yeah.
there yet. You only have that
Yeah.
1 second.
Yeah, exactly. And that's but yeah, that's the trust part, like really. And normally when you're going through the process of working with a new snapper or a new holder, your get off times are going to be a little bit slower because you're allowing them to find their rhythm. You're not rushing them to get there. So that get off time will probably be around 1-4, 1-5. And then as time goes on, the more comfortable you get, then but that's really just you're trusting more.
Yeah.
So you're not waiting, you're just trusting more. So you're leaving a little bit sooner because you're trusting that everything is going to be where it needs to be. But it really is a development of trust over those first few practices of working with new snappers or new holders. So there is a process that goes through that, and good coaches are going to understand that, where they allow you to go through that process so that you're not rushed. Because if you're rushing things and you don't have that trust, that could lead to some inconsistencies.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. It sort of circles back to O'Shea's response to bringing you in, right, to the fold of allowing the learning, because when you rush, it communicates a doubt, doesn't it? Like, come on, what's your problem? Instead of understanding that there's this developmental path. It's quite beautiful. I'm a big advocate for distilling these core principles from sport because I think they exist just so intensely, like you described. It's such a condensed experience, and so they exist in a way that is so intense and but also accessible by everyone who's watching and participating, right? Because we can all kind
Yeah.
of relate. Yeah, so beautiful. All right. What do you see that's working in sport and not working in sport in general right now? You're an athlete that's living the world of sport all the time. What's working, what's not working?
That's a good question. So obviously what's working is the the business side, right? For a lot of these organizations, right? NBA, NFL, CFL, like good at bringing in money, and what's not working? That's tough. I mean, I'm pretty new to it all, right? So last year being my first year, um, I don't want to just say something off the cusp, right? Just to give an answer. Um, but yeah, that's tough because I'm kind of like everybody else where I'll read, right? I'll watch sports, you know,
Yeah.
sports shows and everything, watch debate shows. I think the CFL actually does a really good job of going global, having a global draft, bringing in global players and, touching other countries. I think that's really special. And I think even the NFL is starting to do that, at least with like London. We have a player from here who just signed. He's from London. He just signed with the Jaguars, I think yesterday or 2 days ago. So that outreach, I think, is really working. I think the diversity, I don't know, I have to look at it. I'm not sure what the diversity is of like the coaching staff and general managers in the CFL as compared to the NFL is.
Yeah.
I think it's much more diverse here in the CFL. And I don't know if that's a cultural thing. I'm not an expert at this whatsoever, but that might be something that at least the NFL can look at. I know the NBA has a little bit more diversity there as well. So because on the field, right, we're very diverse group of guys, right, in the locker room. But yeah, I don't know what's not working. That's what I'm not too sure about, right? Because what I don't know if from the outside maybe things that could be brought up, but I guess I don't look at it so much in that way. I think I look at it more of just really, I guess I'm kind of in my bubble, in my own world, and I like what I'm doing. I like the outreach that I have with guys, and I think that's really important where guys take it upon themselves to help their communities and help their families and help the people around them. Uh, could the organizations be more hands-on with that? Possibly, but again, I don't know what the league does for that, right? So just the league having a partnership to allow us to have further education, I think that's great. That opens up things for guys. But yeah, I guess I'm a big optimist, right? So I don't know. I don't know if where I'd have to really sit down and kind of think about something like that. What could be improved, what's not working. So you kind of stumped me on that one.
No, it's good. No, it's great to hear. And I think a lot of what's working within the CFL is worth promoting, right? Sharing, like the development of players as human beings and this idea of encouraging people to be advocates and have social impact as well as on the field. The diversity thing is really cool to hear about. And yeah, it is worth reflecting on, isn't it? Yeah, I was chatting with Duff Gibson. He's an Olympian out of Calgary, now a firefighter, but he was talking about kids sport, and he devotes a lot of his time into kids sport and things that he sees within that realm, So did you grew up with soccer, and then when did you start to play football, more American football?
It's probably around like 6th or 7th grade. So in Massachusetts, you can't play both sports at the same time. They're both fall sports.
Right.
So you kind of had to make a choice, and all my friends play football, and I was pretty good, like playing in the backyard. I could run, I could catch, but I could also kick. So that brought in soccer. So probably around then is 7th grade is when I really made that shift over, because everyone in the neighborhood growing up in Foxborough was football, right? So I just kind of fell into that, fell in love with that. The stadium was 2 minutes away from our house, right? So the Jets would fly over on Sundays during games. So like everything was just built for me to love that game. But yeah, I think that's super important with kids sports, and honestly, it's not even so much sport, right? Sport is, if you enjoy it, you love it, that's what you do, it's good. But if you enjoy, you love whatever the profession, whether it's mathematics, physics, like what you enjoy doing, just kind of pursue that. Obviously you want to take care of yourself, right? And because sport, you love the sport, you don't necessarily love the exercise that comes with the sport, right? So like I love kicking. Do I necessarily, well, I do love the training aspect. That's me personally, but sometimes I don't, where that's where I kind of look at people that don't play sport. I admire the fact that they take care of themselves, right? Because they're taking care of themselves just, for their health, where in sport, if you don't, you will not perform at a high level, so it's kind of required that you do that if this is actually what you want to pursue. So I think the sport is good for the health, but if you don't love it, if you, I have a younger brother that's the complete opposite of me, right? He's actually, he graduated from Yale. He's a chemist. So I asked my dad once, if you had to talk about the differences between your sons, what would you tell him? And he said, if one son gets in trouble, we tell him he has to come inside. And if the other son gets in trouble, we tell him he has to go play outside. So that was my little brother's punishment, is he has to go outside. So I think it's good for kids to have sport and competition, when they're young. But even if even if you're in the science realm, right, there are things that you can do to work as a team to develop. And I think those are the great things, that you can find some things that sport teaches in other realms if you're a part of a team, right? So I think that's important for kids to do what they enjoy doing, for parents to expose them to a lot, to figure out, hey, where do you lose track of time? And I think that's something I go off of, is if time doesn't exist when you're doing something, you're you're in the right space, right? So if you're looking at the watch all the time, like, okay, when am I getting out of here? You should probably, look for something else to do. But I'm sure for yourself, when you're training, when you're in competition, you never look at the clock because you're just in it. You're just doing it. And however much time that takes is however much time it takes. And I think people can find that for themselves in different places, sport and elsewhere.
Because I think sometimes people put activities on some kind of hierarchy, like a hierarchy of importance. And sometimes I think sport is considered, oh, it's just kind of a fun activity, but it doesn't have a lot of meaning. But what you're talking about is it's another pursuit. And so whatever your pursuit, whether it's music or art or science or sport, the beauty of each of those realms is the passion and finding something you love to do, but also pursuing that excellence, striving to hone your skills and your knowledge and your relationships within that context. Hey, gorgeous.
Yeah.
Who were your heroes, your mentors, coaches that were quite transformational for you, or role models? You talk about your family a lot. Who else did you look to for guidance?
Yes. So I was pretty lucky through the years. I've been, maybe other than my college years, I'd say my coaches were great men, right? The guys that really cared, guys that I could look to help throughout the process, right? So my high school football coach, incredible. My mom and dad, just their work ethic. My sisters, really just my family to me has been a driving factor in everything that I do, right? So I told them I was going to do something, so I had to move away from home, and I had committed to them, that's what I'm going to do. So all my work was aimed towards doing that. And I think it stems off realizing what my dad did, right? So moving to a different country, whole, culture shock, building up the family, making sure that, we had a comfortable life. My sisters making decisions in their lives to allow me to pursue my dreams, right? So it took a lot from my family for me to pursue what I wanted to do, right? So I've been blessed with an incredible family. Even my peers, just my peers in the kicking game that I've learned from. You meet so many people throughout it all. From a distance, I'd say it was Adam Vinatieri. That time growing up in Massachusetts and Foxborough, he's hitting field goals in the snow. Like, that's what I love about Winnipeg is there's a chance that we might have those sort of games, right? So watching that and aspiring to be that, I think was a North Star for me, I guess. But yeah, from then I feel like everybody I meet, I learn a little bit from everybody. Trainers that I've had, coaches that I've had. Obviously, O'Shea has been incredible for me, friends, like, so that's the one thing I guess as a kid it was Adam Vinatieri, right? Hey, he's the guy that I want to be like. He's won Super Bowls for the Patriots, like given me so much joy, right? What we talked about is he's playing the game, but I'm having joy as though I'm the one playing the game. But from then, it's just been really, I guess I almost surround myself with role models, right? Even my fiance, how she goes about her life and the things that she challenges me to do, she's a role model to me, so I'm just surrounded. All my friends, all my family, I guess they're my role models, so yeah. I've had people who have been kickers in the NFL like help me in that sense, but that's a part of them that I'm taking. But then everybody else in my life, there's always a little something that I think I take from everybody. So
Great outlook.
Yeah. So having, I guess the mentality of different people, like the Kobe Bryants of the world, right? The Michael Jordans of the world, the Bruce Lees, right? So I read a lot on how guys look at things mentally, And I try to apply those things. And then from there, it's just looking at, hey, who's around me, right? There's a good saying that tend to the part of the garden that you can touch, right? So the people around you, I think, are going to be, you're going to help teach them the most, and you're going to learn from them the most.
Gorgeous. Yeah,
Yeah.
right on. And to finish off, a particularly impactful experience or a period of time in your life in sport that you feel has really, set you on your way or left a real impression or been kind of a turning point for you? Anything like that you could share?
Yeah. So in the, like when you're a free agent kicker, you'll go to different combines, right? So coaches, scouts will go there, they'll watch you kick. And if you kick well enough, they might invite you to a tryout, they might invite you to camp, they might sign you, whatever. You might do well, or you might not get a call, right? So you kind of just go, you kick, and then you wait. Something might, more often than not, nothing happens, but there'll be a few chances that something does happen. So at this point, I had gone to, a bunch of those. I've had a couple workouts from some, and this was in 2018. My father had passed in 2017, so I moved home. I played indoor football during that time, and I was working during that time. So I was working as a personal trainer at Lifetime, and kicking for the Massachusetts Pirates. And I actually went to a combine, and I didn't kick as well as I'd like to. So after the combine, I actually spoke to one of my mentors, Nick Lowry. He kicked for the Kansas City Chiefs. He's in the Hall of Fame for the Chiefs, and we talked, and he was honest with me and said, that's not going to do it. Like, your performance isn't going to get you to that next level. So one of my flights got canceled. I was just sitting in the hotel, and I was just like, you know what? I felt like I was giving 80% to kicking and 80% to my job, right? So I wasn't going to be great at either of them. So I went home, and I just, I gave my 2 weeks, quit my job, moved back to Arizona. And it was difficult because my dad had just passed, and, I thought it was right for me to be at home. So having that conversation with my mom and sisters and brother, like, hey, I'm not done with this. I have to go do this. That was tough because I felt like they needed me there, but I felt like I had some unfinished business to do. And after that decision, I moved to Arizona. In 2 months, I was in minicamp with the Washington Commanders. And from there, I started, performing even better at combines. I was performing well at combines, but I started winning combines. And it was just kind of that decision that, you know what, if I put all my 100% effort and energy into this, where can that take me? And I believe that's taken me to be one of the best kickers in the world. And it's been quite a journey since then, right? So when you perform at a really high level, you're okay if you don't get opportunity, because if I keep performing at this level, something will open up. So yeah, from there, started getting more workouts, kicking well at workouts, kicking well went back, played some games in the indoor football league, kicking really well here, right? Signed here, a little bit of a growing season, but still kicking the ball well.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm really excited for this season to come up. But it took something like that. It took something like not performing to my standard and really having to look in the mirror and make a decision that, you know what, this is what I'm going to do, and allow all my actions to then be focused in on that, and see where that takes me, right? Because then I can live without regret. If I was given 70%, 80% or something, I couldn't do that to myself. And because I also think if I did that, then I'm going to have some sort of, not, I'll have regret, but what's the word? Where you might be upset at other people for resentment. I might feel resentful, right? Even though I'm resentful of myself, I think that can manifest in being resentful to others. If you don't give your all into something, you'll you'll put that resentment, you'll project that onto other people, and that wasn't something that I wanted to do. So
right on. And I have one last question about reps. You've talked about reps, and I'm always thinking about kids, kids who are listening to you and hearing your approach. There's so much they can take away here, but it's really about the reps, right? I kept hearing that all the way through. You got to just put that time in. You got to be focused and committed.
Yeah.
But, what motivates you to put in the reps? Because that's what's going to get you there. But it's hard.
I love doing it. Like that is like the past, like setting up to come here. I hadn't kicked for about 3 or 4 days, and I felt like empty. I'm like, something's missing, something's missing. So whether I'm kicking on a team, not kicking on a team, like I'll kick until my deathbed, so that's how much I love doing it. But it's the reps on the field, it's the reps in the weight room, it's the mental reps, but really, if you really love doing something, you can go. There was a point this off season where normally I'll kick like every other day, every 2 days, but I got to this point where I kicked 9 times, like 9 days in a row, kicked maybe 3 of those days I kicked in the morning and I kicked in the evening. So it was like a lot of reps, but you have to make sure that your body's ready for like that amount of repetitions and to kick that much. But when you love it, you're gonna get the reps in, whether it's basketball. If you love playing basketball, like I was a gym rat. I wasn't the best at basketball starting off, but because I was a gym rat, I ended up being pretty darn good. I could have played basketball in college, but because I loved doing it, I was always in the gym. And so I don't care whatever it is somebody's doing, you'll find a way to do it. Because when I decided to pursue this goal initially, it was like I had 2 footballs, and you pick 2 footballs, go pick them up, bring them back, and keep doing it. And there were points where I was like, although physically I didn't look like a pro kicker, mentally I felt like, okay, that was my aiming point. That's what I'm working towards. So the only way to have gotten there is through the repetitions, through the work, through the learning. But I'm sure like the more reps you get in, Kobe Bryant talks about this. He says, okay, if I'm putting in an extra 2 hours a day than the guy next to me, over a year, I've put in that time. What's going on now? You separate yourself, and it's strictly because of the time that you've put in. So that's what I try to teach these young guys. Like I'm very, like the guys that I coach, I'm very hard on them, and don't think that you can get from point A to point B quickly, right? You're not I look at the tortoise and the hare. You're not looking for speed. You're looking for consistent improvement over a 10, 15-year span, and I can speak to that because I've lived it, right? So a lot of these guys that I coach are very talented, but sometimes I think you can become stagnant because you're just the best, right? At a young age, you think you're always going to be the best, but over time, if you can't, there's going to be a kid that maybe not as talented, but if he puts that time in, that's who I believe I am. I wasn't as talented, but I've just literally put so much time in that eventually you get to this point where you can step on the field with anybody, so I think that's huge, but I think it comes from a deep love of what you're doing.
Bingo. And that's where we'll end. Thank you very much. That was a real pleasure to spend the time, Ali. I appreciate all your comments and all the best this year. I'm sure you're just going to have a stellar experience. We'll be watching.
Yeah. Thanks. You got some good questions in there that it's like, oh shit, I don't know what to say there, but yeah, it's good to be here. I'm excited for what this year holds. So just keep on working and allow it to. And honestly, like after our talk, getting into that alignment, it was just like kind of speak, like it was kind of a realization, to be honest. It's like, okay, well, I'm here now. okay, I'm in the right spot. I can trust everything to let go, you know? So that was huge. So thank you for bringing that out.
High five. I mean, that was such
Yeah,
a
for
shared
real.
experience, you know. I felt the same, like, whoa, that was it, aligned with the universe. But that spot, that alignment, it's probably relevant to any athlete, actually, to find that
Mhm.
spot where you feel centered and you're there. Oh,
Mhm.
yeah, you got it, buddy. We'll be cheering.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, sounds good.
Take care.
All right, talk to you later.
Bye.